main thing I learned from watching all kinds of different sequels, good sequels, bad sequels, is if people fell in love with the first movie, you cannot throw that away. And at the end of the first movie, we all sort of fell in love with Evelyn and O'Connell, and they fell in love with each other. And now, mainly this movie, I took it to the next level. Where are they? A lot of times, people will throw out the first movie. They'll start the relationship over, or they'll ditch one of the characters or something like that. And I think that's fatal. And so mainly, I took all the characters, and we brought back 8 of the actors. And I said, how can I take all these characters and make them better, and all their relationships more intertwining, more interesting?
Rick is 9-10 years older. He's married to Rachel Weisz's character, Evelyn. They have a 9-year-old boy. I think that they've done very well for themselves. They live in a nice house. That bag of gold in the back of the Camel from the previous film serving them well. I think Rick's feeling probably like he's tired of fighting all the time, and he's just about ready to hang up his guns when Evelyn decides that it's time to go on just one last journey.
Why don't you just give me one good reason?
It's just an oasis.
She has an instinctive desire to find the lost bracelet of Amshir, and it's, according to legend, a guide or a map of sorts to finding a pyramid of gold.
They find the bracelet of Anubis, and their son, playing with the bracelet, it attaches itself to his skin and compresses, and he becomes a living map to the oasis of Amshir, where the Scorpion King will rise, and it sets everything in motion.
In addition to bringing back all of the cast, we have new characters. We have even badder bad guys. Arnold Vosloo is back to play the Mummy, and a formidable foe in his own right. But there's a character who's introduced who the Mummy even respects.
The character I play is called the Scorpion King. The Scorpion King was a fierce, just a kick-butt warrior way back in the day, in ancient Egypt. And he was unfortunately defeated, and his army was defeated and didn't sit well with the Scorpion King. So he had a little conversation with Anubis, who was a god back then, and he said, if you grant me the ability to fight, one more war with this army, then in return, I'll sell you my soul. And of course, Anubis, knowing the soul of the Scorpion King is like gold, granted him that wish, went to war, defeated the army that defeated him, and his soul was sucked out of him.
He's a sort of warlord from his time, and of course I was very powerful in my time, and one of the things that has to happen is I have to defeat him in order to sort of get the whole cake.
When we did the first one, we were always talking what would happen if there was a sequel, and we were all hoping that we will all come back. Steve always said it, and always was very strong about the fact that he would have liked to work with all the same people that he worked with before. Not only the cast members, but the crew as well.
Part of the reason I wanted to do this movie is because I had so much fun working with the actors in the last one. They're all really very nice people to begin with, and they're very talented. So it was a really great experience. I thought, oh, I can't wait to work with them again. So it's really comfortable on the set. And so the new actors who have come on, they arrive instantly and they say, oh, they see the camaraderie and that we're laid back and we're really a lot of fun. And so it puts them at ease. Because that way the camera will be farther out. So that's all. As soon as you turn around, beat, and then do it.
Got it.
Close your mouth.
Yell at the top?
Yeah, sure, you can go, ah! Haku!
Got it.
Just a hair of a beat as opposed to a long beat. Okay. Once your mouth closes. Once you look forward and your mouth closes, a hair of a beat, then just go right to it.
Got it.
Camera, and action!
I was a fan of the first Mummy movie. It was very lighthearted and funny, but at the same time, it was pretty captivating.
I'm directing The Rock. He's only hit me twice today.
And I thought that the character of the Scorpion King was one that was very strong, and he was this fierce warrior, and there was no quit in the Scorpion King. And of course, when he comes back at the end, it was very appealing to me too, and a major fight with Brendan Fraser and Arnold Vosloo. So all that was very appealing, and at the end of it, I had a hell of a time, and it was fantastic.
Part of the attraction of coming back was that, you know, we did have a real blast on the first one. It was a really good group of actors and no egos there, and, you know, top crew, just top-class people, and Steve Summers was just great to work with, really fun, and knew what he was doing as well. That was kind of important, you know.
When you do a film, the first 3 or 4 weeks are spent getting to know everyone and sussing everyone out, and it gets a bit political and uncomfortable. And it's lovely because we all got on so well on the first one that it's like a school reunion. It was really lovely and easygoing. It actually didn't feel much like work at first.
Well, my name is Mila in The Mummy 2. I come back as the reincarnation of Anxunamun from The Mummy 1. So my mission in The Mummy 2 is to resurrect the mummy, so the mummy can bring me back to who I really was, which is Anxunamun.
My reincarnated love digs me up, brings me to London, and wakes me up, and all hell breaks loose.
The awesome fight scene I had with the army there was amazing, and the Moroccan army was there shooting with us, and the fight scenes with them were really spectacular. I was throwing guys left and right over my head and things like that, so it was really, really good. I enjoyed it.
We spent the last 3 months learning a martial arts called Sai fighting with swords.
We learned to use swords and blades and sticks and knives and everything, and we are actually doing most of the fights ourselves.
We had to train very, very hard because it's quite an accomplished martial arts to do. It's a two-handed sword fight that was choreographed, and then on the day, well, we shot it over 3 days, it was kind of changed around a lot, so we had to be able to improvise a bit with the fighting.
I've made it much more complex technically. I mean, because now I'm so comfortable. It's like I know it's 98% of the same crew. So, and we've been to most of the locations, although there's a whole bunch of new ones. We go to Jordan and Egypt this time, and so that's really comfortable. That's really made it nice. But the one thing that's harder is it's a much bigger movie, much more technically complex.
I think we feel across the board we have to up the ante a little bit. We want the villains to be scarier. We want the story to be more compelling. We want the romance to be more romantic and the effects to be more spectacular. All of those things are pouring into this movie right here on the set.
It's really exciting. So you spend a couple of weeks on one set, and then there'll be another one being built, and then you'll walk in, and it's just like, wow, gosh, this is now the ancient Egyptian court. Or next door in there's the dirigible, which is this big boat that's carried by a hot air balloon, which is floating up in the sky. And so it's kind of a new treat in store every few weeks.
When you walk on set, you know, you're in this great costume, and then you walk onto something like this, you know, where, I mean, it's just unbelievable what these guys have built, you know, it's amazing. So it's very easy, you know, somebody yells action and you're in this world.
Well, I think we have a great advantage on this movie, in that, at least with this team, we all have worked together before, and we all know kind of what to expect of each other, and everybody's seen what the visual effects really turned out to be. Whereas last time, they had to go in a lot more faith. I mean, the actors are great about that kind of stuff. All the time, it's their imagination that drives their performance.
So you just try to imagine it as best you can. You have technical people who sort of can explain to you what the creature would look like and what would be the right direction to look at it.
So the more we can do to energize their imagination about what it is we're putting in front of them, the better their performance is going to be.
Here you go. 3, 2, 1, action!
I'm very interested in the integration of what actors bring to the special effects wizards, like John Burton at ILM. It's inspiring to me to feel like I'm part of a collaboration in the filmmaking process.
The visual effects process spans across the entirety of the movie-making process. We start out at the conceptual stage. As Steve was writing the script, he was talking to me and saying, well, here's what I have in mind. And I'm going, yeah, great, let's go, you know, let's do it. Same as the last time when he said, where should I draw the line? I said, don't draw the line. Let's go for the most imaginative things that you can think of. Now he knows that that's the paradigm, and he knows that he can sort of let his imagination run wild, and we'll bring that to the screen.
Cut! I love you guys! Yeah! It starts with a character. Once I knew where I was going to take all the characters, I came up with a story that's as good or better, I think, actually, and more interesting. And, you know, if you learn, I learned a lot from the first one. So I think this one's going to be definitely better.
Brendan Fraser, Rachel Wise, John Hannah, Arnold Vosloo, Oded Fair, Patricia Velasquez, newcomer Freddie Both, and The Rock as the Scorpion King. The Mummy returns.
Where did you get this?
On a dig down in Thebes.
Jonathan, I think you found something.
There is an ancient legend of a place known as the City of the Dead.
Call it the doorway to hell.
Where the earliest pharaohs were said to have hidden the wealth of Egypt.
Are we going into battle?
There's something out there. Something underneath that sand.
They came to uncover its secrets.
Mummies, my good son. This is where they made the mummies.
They sought to unlock its treasures.
And then there was light.
Oh, boy.
What they did
Oh my God, it does exist.
I think this may be the Book of the Dead.
was unleash a force unlike any the world has ever known.
What the hell was that?
You have unleashed a creature that we have feared for more than 3,000 years.
Whoa!
He will regenerate and no longer be the undead.
We are in serious trouble.
In the next half hour, journey with us behind the scenes on the new epic adventure from Universal Pictures. Join us for an exploration of filming in the Sahara Desert and the creation of cutting-edge special effects. Then ride with us on rip-roaring stunts and action sequences and explore with us the mysteries of the mummy in ancient Egypt and in Hollywood as we unwrap the making of the mummy.
It's an action-adventure romance with lots of humor, lots of scares.
Can you swim?
If the occasion calls for it,
Trust me! It calls for it!
It had all the earmarkings of an action and adventure, and a romance, and a very large film.
I thought it was just really perfect romantic adventure. Oh, Connell.
The special effects are the best of the best. They're going to help us create ancient Egypt of 3,000 years ago, Cairo of the 1920s, and then they're going to help us create the magic of the mummy.
Mummies first captured Hollywood's imagination in the early 1930s.
The great original Mummy was made in 1932, and it's really been fun to bring that character back to Universal Studios.
It was the one horror movie as a kid that scared the hell out of me. All the other ones, like Frankenstein, he was kind of tragic and sad, and Dracula was sexy and kind of cool. But the only one that really scared the hell out of me was the Mummy. In the original, Boris Karloff, he's only the mummy for the first scene.
Looks as though he died in some sensationally unpleasant manner.
Contorted muscles show that he struggled in the bandages.
Buried alive.
In the rest of the movie, he's Boris Karloff with like kind of little wrinkles.
You have studied our ancient arts, and you know that you cannot harm me. You also know that you must return that scroll to me or die. If I could get my hands on you, I'd break your dried flesh to pieces.
I probably saw it when I was like 8 years old on the television in black and white, and I've never forgotten it.
To get it, you will kill. Kill wherever you find the fluid.
The Mummy's success spawned numerous sequels and different series. People want to believe in a life after death situation, and The Mummy, what better movie could exemplify that? And people never got sick of The Mummy, which is why they kept making them over and over and over again.
The Mummy is a source of enduring fascination because it actually achieved what the Egyptians set out for it to do. The mummy survives death. So when a body survives beyond the person's spirit, that's a very spooky thing for us.
In the original film, when you first see the mummy's hand come into the frame, you know, people jumped when they saw that. The scariest part, I think, is watching that little bandage just sort of trail off.
And I love the original Mummy, and I just thought, yeah, but now to do it over again, you have to do something different. You have to make it more exciting and more adventurous, and that's what really interested me. So let's make it bigger.
Will you just pay the man?
The Mummy brings together a tinderbox of characters, much like those drawn to Egypt in the 1920s.
In the 1920s, Cairo is filled with a great variety of people, everyone from treasure seekers to would-be archaeologists, and people often cross the line from one to another.
O'Connell, played by Brendan Fraser, is a captain of the French Foreign Legion. He's the kind of guy who goes into fights face first.
Rick's a thrill seeker. He has a death wish in some ways, I think.
Come on, let's get out of here! Whoa!
Evelyn, played by Rachel Weisz, she's sort of the brains of the outfit.
I'm a librarian. I'm trained in Egyptology and archaeology. She's not been allowed to go on any archaeological digs. I think she suffers because she's a woman. So she's sort of wide-eyed and innocent in some senses because she hasn't really experienced much of life. She's a bookworm.
Who put you in charge? O'Connell, what do you think you are doing? Jonathan! O'Connell!
Sorry, but he's a bit
Coward that you
tall.
are! O'Connell, you are not leaving me in here!
I don't think I've ever seen a man like that in my life, you know. In the library, certainly never met anyone like that before.
Let's go, Jonathan.
Oh, well, I thought I could just stay at the fort and reconnoiter.
Now!
Yeah, right. We're just going to rescue the Egyptologist. My character's a bit of a loser, really, sort of hanging around in Egypt and Cairo. They're going off trying to have a little love story. And I'm this stray dog that's following them around.
You all right?
Well, not sure. What a surprise! My good friend, you're alive!
Well, if it ain't my little buddy Benny. Benny sort of pops in and pops out. I think I'll kill you.
Think of my children.
You don't have any children.
Someday I might.
So I sort of ruin the mood of every scene I enter.
The story of The Mummy begins when Rick O'Connell desperately needs to get out of prison.
I will give you £100 to save this man's life.
I would pay £100 just to see him hang.
And a young woman desperately needs some information.
You were actually at Hamunaptra.
Yeah, I was there.
Could you tell me how to get there?
You want to know?
Yes.
Then get me the hell out of here.
We're going to cruise down the River Nile, try our luck at finding fame and fortune.
Personally, I think he's filthy, rude, a complete scoundrel. I don't like him one bit.
Anyone I know?
I think they realize early on they have feelings for one another, but aren't likely to let on that they do.
By the way, why did you kiss me?
No, I was about to be hanged. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Oh.
What?
They work well together on this adventure. It's her brains in his brawn. Slowly but surely they become a partnership.
Awfully tempting, wasn't it?
And then a romance develops.
Awfully.
But complications arise when they enter a forbidden tomb and unlock its secrets.
Imhotep is one of Pharaoh's priests. He was mummified without being protected by all the sacred spells and things that could protect you going into the afterlife. It's actually my character who raises the mummy. It speaks of the night and of the day.
The mummy is very strong, very powerful. He goes through different stages and becomes an extremely dangerous and extremely handsome man.
You got any bright ideas?
I'm thinking.
And matters go from bad to worse when Imhotep, the mummy, needs a woman to fulfill his destiny.
Hey! Get your ugly face off of her!
He wants to resurrect his lover, and in order to resurrect her, he needs a sacrifice. So he chooses me as the sacrifice.
The filmmakers chose to shoot in Morocco in the difficult conditions of the Sahara Desert to capture the ambience and allure of ancient Egypt.
There's something about the desert that says humans go away. I think there is a glamour of, you know, adventuring across the desert. And it is beautiful, but it's harsh.
In the last week, it was 145 degrees. It was 130 degrees by 8:30 in the morning. You have to physically sit in the shade.
I kind of felt like it would be a great holiday, you know, Morocco, and it'll be fantastic, bit of sunshine, lie by the pool occasionally. But it was really hot out there, it was unremitting, the winds were harsh, the sun was harsh, there was the snakes and the scorpions, not to mention being out in the desert in the middle of the night.
Designing the look of ancient Egypt and Cairo in the 1920s challenged the filmmakers. They spent 16 weeks in the oppressive heat building the lost city of Hamunaptra.
When Napoleon invaded Egypt, he had architects and illustrators do this wonderful book, which became our sort of Bible, and we use a lot of elements and decorative details from the book. And it was really like a giant jigsaw putting all these elements together to make it work for the script.
Oh my God, we're back.
Once I'd found the location, we did a whole survey of the volcano, so we had all the dimensions and the heights. Made a model of scale columns and bases and statues, and then really played about with those and planned out how it would work for the action and how to make the set look best. So at the end of the script, the whole city is supposed to sink back into the desert, back into the volcano, so several of the sets are built by special effects to fall down and to collapse.
Ready!
So it's a huge combination of special effects and construction.
It would have been very easy just to have all the columns coming over in one piece. But we looked at various footage and we tried to recreate that in making all the columns come down in segments and breaking up on the way down.
If you're here and it's still falling, you just want to hug this edge.
We had to run through a path that was sort of defined by Simon Crane, the stunt coordinator, while columns and dust and pillars and rocks all fell around us. So we were told if you run in this exact path, you won't get thumped by falling rocks.
The ground collapsing sequence, it took a lot of work, a lot of metal work underneath there, which, you know, we could trigger at whatever speed we liked to obviously chase them along, and a fair bit of good timing, keeping up with the actors and making sure they didn't actually fall down the hole. Underneath the temple, as it were, and we've got all the shots of all the ceilings and walls coming down there and all the dust.
There weren't elaborate booby traps of the kind you often see in Hollywood movies, but the Egyptians were very concerned to do what they could to protect their tombs. And gigantic measures like huge stone blocks that would drop into place, sealing off passages, were really something that the pharaohs did build into the tombs.
To create the mummy in all his forms and his army, the filmmakers combined elaborate computer-generated effects with extensive live-action work.
I produce all the actual physical creature effects that appear actually on set. We'd find the thinnest possible performers we could, and we would sculpt directly onto them and create lycra-based foam latex suits that would hopefully move in as realistic way as possible.
Who the hell are these guys?
The innovation of industrial light and magic added another dimension to the film's eye-catching effects.
We shot the movie with absolutely no completed representation of the mummy. It is a long, really interesting, but suspenseful process.
The crew from ILM have been great. Whenever we needed some sort of inspiration, they'd hold up a photograph of what the mummy will look like in stage 1, 2, 3 of decomposition.
The mummy starts out as a walking animated corpse, and then as he proceeds to do away with the poor unfortunate people who opened his tomb, he regenerates more and more, changes into different monsters that are more and more human until finally he is the actor Arnold Vosloo. And there's stages where he's part computer graphics, part live action. We make sure that our mummy walks and acts just like Arnold Vosloo. With the scarabs, we did a combination of being able to direct things specifically using our sort of traditional skills as keyframe animators. And then the computer can control large groups of them to follow some sort of general direction and have them collide with the ground and crawl over each other and things like that. What we've done here is a lot of the practical effects. That we will incorporate into this huge, scary face. We can take all the action and adventure that's going on with Brendan Fraser's performance, combine it with the special effects work that the guys here on the set are doing, and then we gloss it with a really beautiful computer graphics deal at the end, and you have a shot that incorporates both action and really great effects.
The special effects were closely matched with well-designed stunt work in several scenes of the film.
What we're actually practicing here is where Benny and Evelyn get ejected from the sandstorm. Now, the sandstorm is going to be CGI, so we'll see that on one side of the frame. We're using a piece of equipment called the Russian swing. If you make a mistake on the Russian swing, it's very unforgiving. Here, I want them to travel through the air approximately 40 feet before they hit the sand and then start to roll. The specialised horse stunt people that I use, I bring them from all over the world. We had a lot of Spanish there, Hungarian, South African. I had a big stunt team out there of approximately 40 people.
It was by far and away the largest filmmaking sequence I think I've been involved in to date, and very exciting, a bit risky, a little frightening. Those were real charging horsemen coming at us. Blank gunfire, but all the same, there were probably 200 or 300 people working in the shop.
Basically, all the artists need to be able to ride the camels pretty well because they're involved in a camel race. It's quite exciting. It's funny, they can twist and turn and try and take a chunk out of you when you're not expecting it.
In their natural habitat, they're extraordinary, and to then get the opportunity of like riding them through the desert at pretty much full pelt was a really, really exhilarating experience. Although it does feel a little bit like riding something with 3 legs and a wheel. Its head's pretty bendy. It's like riding a big pantomime horse, as I say, with a wheel at one end, a skateboard at the other, and a snake out front. It can turn around and look at you. But it was good. It was really quite fun.
Trying to eat the bottle.
I don't think the camel knows I'm on its back. It knows Brendan Fraser is me. I think it's there's a large fly on my back. And if I can get him off it.
Go on, Granny!
Now that serves you right.
Costume designer John Bloomfield had the challenging task of capturing the dress styles of both ancient Egypt and Cairo in the 1920s.
The interesting thing for me about this project is the fact that it works on so many levels. Just the fact of being in the Sahara Desert and doing an Egyptian full-on Pharaoh movie, and then having the Tuareg Arabs and having the French Foreign Legion, the whole thing is fantastic.
Are you sure we can find the secret compartment thing?
With Brendan Fraser, I was going for a very striking look, slightly laid back, but very heroic.
Jonathan, you stole it from a drunk at the local Casbah.
Picked his pocket, actually, so I don't think
Jonathan,
it's very
will you
good.
stop being so ridiculous? Now,
With John Hannah, I was going for the upper-class cad. He's a quick-thinking wheeler-dealer, but slightly more contrived, as a contrast to the O'Connell character.
My research has led me to believe that the city itself may have actually existed.
With Rachel Weisz, I went for extremes. She starts off as the librarian looking quite sedate, and then does the classic thing, takes her glasses off and lets her hair down. The mummy is an Egyptian priest, and I wanted to show this in both periods of the movie. He always keeps the same character, even as a lover, a priest, a mummy, and a avenging spirit. And so the disguise that he wears, for example, in the modern part of the film, still reflects his ancient robes.
The film was directed by accomplished director-screenwriter Stephen Sommers.
As a kid, I loved the original. It wasn't just a horror movie. When you're 8 years old and from a small town in Minnesota, it really swept me away.
Here's the deal. All these guys are looking into the sarcophagus. On action, these two guys go this way.
Steve shared everybody's enthusiasm for the project and for the task and the adventure of creating a new mummy.
I always loved that movie, and when I heard they were trying to make it, I kept trying to get on and trying to get on.
He approached us about wanting to do the mummy. We'd been developing the script for years.
I had the whole story. I just knew what I wanted to tell.
He had a great passion for the idea of the mummy.
It was this big, sweeping, romantic, action-packed adventure movie, you know, wrapped in a mummy movie.
He's gonna boom fire that so they're coming around the corner as it's crashing.
He, in the very beginning, said, I don't want this to be like a mummy movie like we've seen in the past with the shuffling guy in bandages. This guy's got to be mean, he's got to be fast, and he's got to be dangerous. It's a movie for the 90s.
I think he's just so enthusiastic to be making this picture. He's constantly going. He has boundless energy. He knows how to direct an action picture.
He's just made the whole shoot really easy and fun, you know, even in times when it's been difficult and hot and things like that. He's great.
Boom! So that's what you gotta keep your eye on the ball.
Out of the park!
I think the mummy has wide appeal. It's a great deal of fun. It is scary in the best of ways.
It's just got stuff coming at you, one thing after another. If it's not dust storms, it's locusts, or it's scarabs, or it's a really gross-looking desiccated mummy, or it's a whole army of mummies chasing after somebody.
It's a reinvention of a classic character.
What? This just keeps getting better and better.
Universal Pictures invites you to experience the adventure
It appears he's already chosen his human sacrifice.
that will live forever.
If he turns me into a mummy, you're the first one I'm coming after.
Go!